Podcasting 2.0 for March 25th, 2022, episode 79. Users and developers partying together. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the official board meeting for Podcasting 2.0. Everything happening at podcastindex.org, the podcast namespace, and, of course, podcastindex.social. I'm Adam Curry here in the heart of the Texas Hill Country and in Alabama, the man who can redirect anything to the correct destination. My friend on the other end, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dave Jones.
Yeah, you barely got that title in. I mean, you had to work at it to get it in under the hit.
But I did it. I hit the post, man. Come on, give me a break.
You squeezed it right. No, you're a pro. You squeezed it right in there. It was like shot the gap.
It's shot the gap.
I mean, you're an old experienced DJ, so you know how to shoot the gap.
Well, it's called hitting the post. Shooting the gap is a term although I will use it from now on.
Yeah, gap juice. You gave it a shot of gap juice.
Good gap juice. Yes, indeed. And we are live right now. If you're using a 2.0 app that understands the brand new live... what do we call this?
The liveItem tag.
Yeah, but that's not a very sexy marketing term. I'm thinking, something that people will grab onto, like Podcast Live or... we need to come up with something. It needs to be called something, not the live podcast, live tag,
the live item,
the live item tag,
open angle bracket podcast.
Well, hold on a second.
Item.
You know what? Live item tag is a great acronym.
For what?
Lit. This show is now lit. It's podcast lit, baby. It's live item. I'm writing that one down. I got to work on it.
That's genius.
Live item tag. Lit. Yeah, you're lit, baby. You're lit.
And when somebody implements the live item, that show is lit.
Yes, exactly. And live is lit. The whole thing. Yeah. I think it works.
No, I'm with you. What two things I've discovered this week?
Oh, okay. It was a pretty slow week, actually.
Sure. I discovered two things that are very important. Number one, comments make people angry. Commenting systems make people angry, and cryptocurrency makes people angry.
Yes.
And so when you marry the two together, it's a beautiful development.
It is. Well, I don't think angry is the right term. I think
it was a little bit.
No, I was triggered.
You were triggered.
Yeah, I was triggered. I personally was like a hairpin on a 50 cal, baby. I was triggered.
You're talking gun talk now that you're in Texas.
I've learned a lot through therapy. It's what 3 marriages will do. It's like you go to therapy and you learn a lot of stuff. And you learn mainly about yourself. And what I've learned is that it's much more useful to find out why I'm responding to something the way I am than the issue itself. Because then from there, everything kind of flows.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And so, do you mind if I go down the path of my process?
Please do. You have the floor.
Yes. Maybe we should explain what this is about before I jump into it. Could you give us the timeline from your viewpoint, because mine I'm sure is slanted.
And we're talking here about the commenting drama that unfolded. Well, let me say it this way first. Let me preface it with this. I will say in past open source projects that I've been involved in, and I've been involved in a few, the typical way this goes down is somebody has a disagreement with the way a thing should be implemented or designed. Another person responds to that disagreement vehemently with their own an alternate take. A flame war ensues, and then everybody gets pissed off and leaves and forks the project. That is typically the experience that happens. And you can look at every open source project. Maybe not everyone, but lots and lots of them. things like Nextcloud, at some point, people always get pissed off and want to fork and leave.
In fact, I was just going to say, you and I have both been involved with, my dog is just barking for a second, have both been involved in projects where the person running the project literally would shut down the server and then, close the mail list and not talk to anybody for a week.
And go home.
For a week without any notice. Just like, what happened? It just all of a sudden the server's gone.
But the fact that this project has not even come close to that shows me the health of things overall. So these things do not bother me because robust public debate and disagreement, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. If those are necessary, and it's necessary sometimes for people to get angry, and because when people get angry about stuff, typically what that means to me is that you need to stop what you're doing and listen. But, it doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't. That has to be clear. It does not mean that just because that the angriest person is right. It just means that when what you're saying is pissing somebody off that bad, it's a good sign that you probably need to chill out for a minute and listen to what they're saying and come back with a different approach. And ultimately, if you can't find agreement, that's fine. You just disagree and the world moves on. But this is all regarding cross-app comments, and specifically Lightning comments, and how Lightning comments get implemented with relation to boostograms. Are they the same thing? Can you mix and match the two? It sort of created this firestorm of where's the source of truth? Do people expect things to be public? And that's kind of where this sort of shit show happened.
I think you kind of nailed that. And it was, to me, I was triggered because it came as a surprise. I didn't really understand what was happening. But let me just go through because there's a lot more to this than just comments. So podcasting is my life's work. So I'm going to say, I'm admittedly emotional about it. And value for value is also something that's very near and dear to my heart, having developed it with Dvorak. So what I see at issue is really bigger. It's about process. It's about the podcasting 2.0 movement. It's how things work. Do we follow any guidelines? Do we work together? We actually used a lot from podcasting 1.0 when we started this project, Dave. Rules for standards makers was one. Which Dave Weiner developed. And there was another mantra of podcasting 1.0. And this kind of came back to me as I'm trying to figure out, why do I have such a visceral response, or what you might call grumpy, is the mantra at the time was users and developers partying together. And by that we meant all users, so listeners and podcasters, but really at the time, it was just podcasters. Podcasters we were listening to each other's podcasts, and it's very analogous to what's happening now with podcasting 2.0, certainly with boostograms, etc. So, it was a little circular, and then it just kind of grew and grew and grew from there. But the users and developers partying together part was key, particularly the podcasters and the developers. That's why I think it works so well. Remember, when I went to Dave Weiner as a content creator, as a podcaster who had who could, write, print, and I had to convince him. It took me 2 days to convince him to create this because I knew how it could be used.
And you have to understand what it means, what it looks like to try to convince Dave Weiner of something. It's a perilous endeavor. It is not for the faint of heart, because he is going to let you know exactly what he thinks about your shitty idea.
I flew to New York to convince him. I mean, I didn't. It wasn't just I flew to New York, and I went back the next day, and then and I showed him what I meant in his radio userland frontier code. It was a mess, and so it took some work, and we clearly never were friends, and we've had all kinds of issues, but the partying together part, we got right. And so I think that was the key to our early success. And if you think about it in the a bit of history here, the podcasters are a valuable part of the equation. And we don't have a lot of that really in our development process. And as you said, Dave, we all have to listen. So let's just go through some history. The early days when we were bootstrapping, it wasn't just RSS. RSS had been around for a long time. There were no apps to speak of. What bootstrapped podcasting was the daily source code and more. But the daily source code, I was creating and using the features at the same time. So content was bootstrapping this process, and it was a very close circle because the developers who were working on iPodder X and iPodder Lemon and all these different apps, which, of course, were applications at the time, they were a part of the programming, because what they were doing was in the show. Here, this is why we're doing this show. So I'll fast forward a whole bunch. But
this is the daily source code of podcasting 2.0. That's
yes,
fair enough,
that's you and I we launched the show as such. The whole idea was to replicate the successful formula. So then I'll fast forward. I meet with Jobs, and he's gonna put podcasting into iTunes. Now there are two things that I didn't contemplate. I've only talked about one, but now I realize the other part here. We made Apple a de facto gateway to podcasting. I did, so that wasn't too brilliant in hindsight. But also, Apple did something very interesting right away. They created a one-click subscription, which was not a spec. It was just, it was their thing. It was a feature. And that really made Apple the default for users as well. But it wasn't really something everybody could do because you couldn't. It was unfair advantage because you couldn't put an Overcast. You can today, 20 years later. You couldn't put an Overcast chiclet on there and have it one-click subscribe in Overcast. It was always going to go to the Apple Podcast app. But what really drove podcasting, which was a disappointment for the OGs at the time, was Apple put the BBC and NPR and all this great wealth of content right there on the homepage, because Steve Jobs knew that he needed to sell this to his customers. And if it was just Dawn and Drew, who I adore, and Madge Weinstein and the daily source code where I'm cussing away, it would detract. It would not be for his core customer necessarily. And having this the content that is highbrow drove that to an extreme. Again, the content drove it. Yes, they had the technology to play it with, but the content drove that. Then we had YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and podcasting was just kind of, was a little quiet, a little stagnant, no features, nothing happens. What brought podcasting back? Was it a new app? Was it a new feature? No, it was serial. Podcasts, and specifically podcasters, are valuable. Joe Rogan was worth hundreds of millions of dollars to Spotify to promote their app. Now, why are Apple and Spotify the top apps? Because podcasters are always telling people the same mantra. Subscribe to us on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. That's the part we need to change. That's why we came up with newpodcastapps.com. So we can have a universal place where we can send people and say, this is podcasting 2.0. Now, if Glenn Beck or Megyn Kelly just said, use Cast-O-Matic, do you think people would? Yeah, I think they would. I think they'd go and try that app out immediately. But we've chosen as a group to promote the entire movement. And the proof is in the pudding. If you haven't noticed, there's a large number of users, and that's listeners and podcasters and people who are both, who have Sir or Dame in their name. Where did they come from? Are these just a bunch of royalty that showed up? No. I told these people who listen to my podcast to come check out Podcasting 2.0. And I've only promoted the entire concept, never one app or service over another. And that's why newpodcastapps.com is so fantastic to send people. So no matter what features any of the apps or services support, I know they will function the same. But if they're different, then what? And what if I went on Rogan and didn't promote newpodcastapps.com or just said, hey, Breeze, that's podcasting 2.0 or Podverse? Now, would that help podcasting 2.0? Maybe to a degree, but it would certainly help those apps. So we make choices. I choose to promote and work in the entire movement. The movement is in sync in accordance with the namespace. So now we get to the value block, the value tag. It's called value for a reason. Value for Value is a brand that was built up over a 15-year period on the No Agenda show. It's a monetization model and it's a content format at one. It's like a floor wax and a dessert topping. And it has this feedback loop. You ask, which is the most difficult part for most people. You ask people to support you. The payments with messages come in and are read on the show. It's content. It's an important part of the entire format. It's also inspirational, and people gamify that in many ways. And then you remind people, and you rinse and repeat, and you do it over again. Now, I'm not independently wealthy. I rely on my podcast as my sole source of income. So I'm going to be passionate about this stuff. And I think podcasters matter, and I feel a little neglected. And let me continue with the value for value part. Payments and messages. Payments and messages are content specific to the show. Producers or listeners take ownership of that content, of that segment. It's valuable to them since it's going to be on the show. And they are private between the sender, the payer, and the recipient. Making payment and messaging information public without the podcaster's consent, to me, is like publishing an email that you were CC'd on. So these payments and messages are not intended to be used as a standalone feature for an app, which is how it felt to me. So now we get to users and developers partying together. Here's what I'm doing, because I feel like I am an important part of the development process, even though I don't write a lick of code. I support all the tags that I possibly can. Thank you, Stephen B. and sovereignfeed.com. I share my income with people like Dreb Scott, who keep the features exciting and consistent and do the chapters, so we have something to show. I publish the live schedule tag, even though no app supports it. No app supports the schedule time, but I'm still doing it because I know someone's going to want to put that in, and then we'll have something to test against it. For months, I've been supporting the social interact tag for cross-app comments. I've been promoting this to my listener group, teasing it. And all of a sudden, there was a party I wasn't invited to. Comments appeared that were not, cross-app comments, but they were being promoted as comments. It didn't work with my comments that I've been publishing for months. I'd lost control. So my content, boostograms from my people, were public. My payment and messaging system. Now I have to sort everything because there's comments and all kinds of stuff in Helipad. That was unexpected. It's almost like, imagine if an app started publishing our PayPal messages. So
right.
For me, we need to realize where success can come from. If we can get podcasters to say, get a modern app, whatever we come up with, if we can send them to newpodcastapps.com, we can all win if everybody has the same features. Then we really compete, or the same core workings, I should say. Any other features you have is what you're ultimately going to win people over with. But if we have all these different commenting systems, and we have Podfriend has its own little thing going on. And so, it's like, why promote a group if the group is not the same? So let's work together, because when you can get podcasters to promote podcasting 2.0 specifically through newpodcastapps.com, everybody can win. Otherwise, it's just going to be people promoting certain apps. And I would think that's a big shame. And finally, the thing that's really unfortunate is the value for value brand is now confused. We're starting to give it up. Boostergrams is a great brand. That's now Lightning comments. What the fuck? Don't give that to the Lightning Network. We're podcasting 2.0. That's our shit. So don't just give stuff up that easily. There we go.
I think this goes back to a thing that I have had to learn, and I was mentioning this to somebody this week, is that I've had to learn this sort of idea over and over again in working with you over the last 10 plus years. How many times would I go to you and say, hey, this is a killer feature, and I would put it into the Freedom Controller and then find out, and you're like, oh, cool, I'll check it out. And then I'll find out 6 months later that you had never touched it. And then I start asking you why. And you say, well, it just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit what I do. Mm-hmm. And then I say, well, explain to me what you do. And I would realize through your explanation that what I thought a podcaster wanted, or what I thought a podcast prep looked like, was actually nothing like what it looked like, because I wasn't a podcaster.
Right.
And so when you create features, and it sounds like we're just crapping all over Oscar, but
not at all. No, not at all. Not at all. No, this is, hey, we're running with scissors. But, yes. When you fall down and you got a cut in your arm, we got to stop and talk about it.
Let's stop and talk and hug. But
I had a friend, actually, I got to tell you this story, in Holland when I was growing up. And he and his brother would always fight. And one time, the one brother was chasing the other one with a pair of scissors. And his mom said, hey, don't do that. You're going to put an eye out. And then he put his eye out by accident.
Holy crap, it's like a Christmas story.
It actually happened.
He got the Red Ryder BB gun popped,
and he had a gooky eye the rest of his life.
Ew.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, this was a little comedic interlude.
But anyway, no, yeah, it's not. It's that issue is always going to be the case when you're writing code and you're envisioning something that you're not, that is not part of your normal course of events. Like you don't have, like now I could write the Freedom Controller editor page 10 times better since I'm podcasting every week.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, I just couldn't do it. I just didn't have the knowledge base to work off of. And the thing that was confusing to me with the Lightning comments is that what I thought it was purely comments, and then maybe that was just me misreading the spec. But then when it came through and it's like, okay, just add an extra thing in your value block, and again, this could have been just me missing the obvious. Put an extra split in your value block, and then we'll show all the boostergrams as comments. That part didn't come across to me when I read the spec, and like it was very disorienting to have all of a sudden that you have what has been built up and what has come to be like a common language between everybody, that boostergrams are a thing that is content on a show. And it's private between a podcaster like a Patreon or a PayPal.
Mm-hmm.
That thing, when all of a sudden that changes, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal, not for just the podcaster, but for the listener as well, because I heard from, I was talking to somebody this week, and it just off the cuff, he said to me that he was not expecting his boost to show up in the comments because he commented from Fountain, and
right.
It was just a disorienting experience that I think in retrospect it was unfortunate that it happened with at the time it did, because comments are already, from the very beginning, we knew they were going to be the most difficult tag. It brings in every single problem. It brings in source of truth issues. It brings in moderation issues and politics. It brings in 10 different messaging systems and which one to use, decentralization. I mean, like, every complicated thing you can possibly think of is all wrapped up in this one tag.
And then we threw on top of it boostergrams.
Yeah.
just to make it easier.
Much.
Yeah, that was an overload.
Yeah, it was just too much. It was too unfortunate. I think there's already been trepidation and sort of an underlying unease within the project about cross-app comments.
Mm-hmm.
And then you throw it, I think the Lightning proposal just threw some gas on that fire that was already there. It was bad timing. It really was. If this had come up 4 months ago, it wouldn't have been such a big thing. We would have talked it out, and it would have not been so closely tied to all of the other stuff, like what about Twitter? Is this stuff going too slow? What do we, all of these other issues should it be moderated? Should it be decentralized? I don't want comments on my post, or excuse me, on my episode. If I don't want them, I should be in control of it. Like, this big discussion was already happening, and then Lightning comments came in, and it was like, oh crap, it's off the rails.
Now, not to say that I'm very excited about having the capability to surface boostergrams. There's nothing wrong with that, but it has to be my call from my feed, the source of truth for my show. And I mean, we just have to have some agreement about what apps are doing, or anyone who's taking a split from the value block. Well, I guess that's not entirely true in this case. Well, it's just if you're a recipient on a message, it doesn't give you, which has multiple recipients, it just doesn't necessarily give anyone the right to publish that publicly. That's just rude. I mean, I know that wasn't the intent,
right?
But that's truly how it works. I mean, this is money that's going back and forth, and and I could get into all the other aspects of how I think it cheapens the whole the prospect. I mean, I understand right now there's a lot of excitement about Lightning and tipping, which, as you know, is not value for value. And by the way, I've discovered, and I think I posted it, tipping is racist. Did you know that? It has racist origins. Yes, I put it in the show notes. Yep. Tipping is racist. Okay. Yes, it is. It kept wages low for formerly enslaved black workers. I
believe it.
But you have Stacker News. And, it's super cool.
I have thoughts about Stacker News.
It's super cool that you can, load up 1,000 sats and you can tap the lightning bolt and give somebody a sat. And that's tipping. It's really just a voting system. It's just a voting system with money. Whoever has the most numbers, it's like, oh, that's great. But it's not value for value. And there was even a whole thread there where value for value was now getting confused with the Lightning comments. I mean, that just drove me over the edge.
Well, the Stacker News post, I've got some thoughts about that, because the underlying sort of tenor of that thread was, why would I give my Bitcoin to a podcast now on a larger time scale, like that $5 or whatever that you're boosting represents, like maybe $5,000 in the future of appreciated value or whatever. And so like that was kind of this underlying idea. That's not an idea, but it was about Lightning comments. And so there's the confusion between value for value and Lightning comments.
Yeah, the headline was value for value, though. That was the problem.
Right. Yeah. See, so then, there's this, but on that topic, Well, I don't want to switch away from topics unless you're done with.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Comment.
I'm good.
Well, so that brings up a different topic to me, just on that specific issue. Why do we make the decisions that we make when it comes to money or boosting or tipping, or any when it comes to when you're going to give value away, and that's a big question within the value for value model. I mean, like, why would you choose to give this Bitcoin away or whatever this might be? And it brought back to mind Jonathan Edwards. If people don't know who Jonathan Edwards he's talked about, because he was a pastor and he was part of the Great Awakening in the United States, and stuff like that. But he was more than just that. He was the first president of, was it first? I don't know if he was the first, but he was former president of Princeton University. Considered by most to be the greatest philosopher or greatest scholar that America has ever produced. But his one of his seminal works was called Freedom of the Will. And so he makes this statement that free moral agents always choose according to the strongest inclination they have at the moment of choosing. And so that's a critical distinction. So it doesn't mean that when you make a choice that your overall context of that choice is the thing that you want to do. So you can imagine this sort of example of a person approaching you with a gun, and he demands the keys to your car. And if you give him the keys to your car, it's not that you want to, but at that moment, at that precise moment, your will decided that was your best course of action. It's the thing you wanted to do, is give him the keys to your car, because the alternative was maybe you would be killed. Maybe a better explanation is the one that Edwards himself used. He said, he talks about this chessboard, and he says, okay, if you, he tries to explain this and says, if you have this chessboard in front of you with no pieces on it, so it's this grid of black and white squares, and somebody says, put your finger on a square, which one would you put it on? Is it a completely open-ended question with no influence at all within your mind? Well, if that's the case, you would never move your hand. So what he breaks it down into steps and says, okay, you look at the board, maybe one little section of the board catches your attention because it has a slight discoloration or whatever. And it goes through these steps of, then you decide, well, white's as good as black. And eventually you come to this moment of choosing where your will decides that putting your finger on that particular spot is the thing you want to do. So that maybe is a better example without all the moralizing. But regardless, this is why bringing the donation process, and this is where it comes back into comments and value for value. Bringing the donation process as close to the product experience as possible is so critical because of this. My strongest inclination on a random Tuesday at 3:00 in the afternoon, when my credit card pings me for $5 a month for that podcast subscription, may not be to have it to be subscribed to a podcast. My strongest inclination at that moment may be that my transmission just blew up, and why the hell am I paying for this podcast? And I may cancel the subscription. But if you bring the donation point down into the app and bring it to the point where it's at the moment when that person has joy, about what they just heard, or they find what you said important or anything like that, at that moment, that is when you get this sort of pure moral economic decision that somebody's just made. The value exchange proposition is morally pure at that moment. It's no longer a dark pattern where you're trying to just keep somebody's credit card on file so you can keep it going and that kind of thing. Well, that's a critical moment in the value for value exchange. That's why it is in the app, and that's why we seem to like ignore things like subscriptions and these other funding models. Well, that's one of the reasons, but this is an important reason. When you extrapolate that out to something like a commenting system, it doesn't work the same, because people do not attach the same value to something like a Twitter post that they do to something like a podcast, which is a product that's being delivered. Like there's an implicit value statement that's happening when you produce a podcast and give it to the listener. And then when you come back with value to the podcaster, that represents the exchange of value. And so anyway, what I'm trying to say is like all the value for value. This answers the question of why would I give somebody $5 worth of Bitcoin today for their podcast when it may be worth 5,000 in the future, in 5 years from now, that same amount of Bitcoin. Well, that's why, is because in that moment you made that decision. You made the decision that the best use of your value was to give it back to the podcaster. And there's no other model that represents things in such a economically, morally pure way. Is that fair?
You brought a tear to my eye. In fact,
mission accomplished.
I boosted you right now.
I'm glad we're not on video.
That was beautiful. And only you could, because you're a philosophy guy. Didn't you major in it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you you're a professor, aren't you? You got a PhD in philosophy?
In a PhD in value for value.
Well, thank you. I don't know anyone who could have explained it that way. And this is something I'm going to save this episode. That was, in fact, I need it transcribed. Hey, I'll transcribe it through my through Otter or whatever it is. It'll be really funny that way.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun. Nice.
Yes, Dr. Dave, the doctor of value.
Well, do we want to talk about the comments tag as it stands? Because I just finished it yesterday.
Yeah. Yes. There's something new in there that I saw, which was priority, or was that always in there? Maybe I hadn't looked at it properly.
It was in there already. Yeah.
Okay.
But I tightened it up, and I'm just going to pull it up.
It's kind of fun to go back to the discussion page on the GitHub and see how the first post from James is all about this should only be ActivityPub.
Oh yeah,
It's kind of funny. Kind of funny to read how we evolved.
Yeah. Well, the ActivityPub. So here's what I tried to do with this. Is focus on activity, the focus on the things that we already know exist and are in use. ActivityPub, Twitter, Lightning, comments. So those three, and here I want to say that like the Lightning comments, it's as a spec is a good one, and it needs to exist. I'm fine with it. It needs to exist in the comments spec and not mix the value for value stuff. That's
yes, exactly.
And so from that, so I put it in there, and it's part of the it's on the slug list for this. And unfortunately, I don't see a way around having a slug list at this point that just lists out the
explain slug list and why it's unfortunate.
Well, so a slug list is basically just it's a list of predefined words.
Variables.
No, they're not variables. They're static. So
okay.
They're just static words.
Right. Okay.
Where it says, where you say, okay, it's like an enum, if you know what that is in programming. It's a list of possible choices.
What was that called?
Enum, E-N-U-M.
Okay. That's what that means. Okay.
Yeah. It's like here's a list of choices, basically, is what an enum is, and then that's what this is.
Right. So it's not open where fill in the blank as long as you do X, Y, and Z. It's like here's the ones you can use for now.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, cold acid, enumeration of values, exactly. So that's unfortunate because that means people have to keep up with the list. Right. So you have a list you have to keep up with. But really, I mean, it's a small list. It's very small, and it's going to grow at a very manageable rate.
Yeah, it's going to grow by one within a week, and that'll be Hive.
You're right, exactly. Yes, it will be Hive. As a matter of fact, I should go ahead and put that in there, just anticipation. But so there's the tag is podcast social interact. That's the only one we're doing. We're not looking at podcast social or podcast social sign up at this point. This is the only tag we're looking at in phase 5. It's podcast social interact. It has 4 attributes: protocol, which references one of the choices from the slug list. Currently, that is the following: ActivityPub, Twitter, Lightning, or disabled.
Right.
The account ID attribute is and the account URL attribute. They're recommended, but optional. And that would be, the account ID would be the account ID on the platform being referenced of the person who posted the root post. So if it's me, if I'm the one that did it, like for today's show, it would be at Dave at podcastindex.social. The account URL is my profile, like my public URL profile on that system. So my public podcastindex.social profile, the URL to that.
Yep.
And then priority is if you have multiple, if you're going to post to Mastodon, Twitter, and Lightning, you got to give some priority so that the app knows which ones you find, what your importance, what's the criteria? What do you find more important? And it's low to high, so it's in ascending order. So priority of 1 is the most important. Priority of 3 would be the least in that scenario. And then the app, that at least gives them a hint as to what your intent is. And then the node value itself is the URL of the root post. So that would be just the full URL of this Twitter status, or the full URL to this toot on Mastodon, or whatever. And so that's essentially the way that's the proposal.
Right. And so that could give you, as long as you're logged into the platform or you have whatever authentication to the platform in question from the slug list, then you will apparently be able to interact.
Yeah. So that's the idea, that you would have
a login. That's why you have the social login element that's coming later.
Yeah. That's to be determined. How that fits and where we use it and all that. And I could, so the idea here is you could kind of approach it a couple of ways. You could say, well, I just want, I don't want to get all into the coding of like pulling comments into the app. I'm just going to, I see this Twitter URL. I'm just going to iframe it and stick it in there. It's kind of a chintzy way to do it. But
yeah, but it worked. Isn't that what CurioCaster is also doing in iframe right now, right?
I think Steven's doing that for the IRC comment.
Right, but I'm just saying. Right, but I'm just saying that iframes for now is. You sound a little bit like, ooh, it's kind of icky.
It is icky.
Yeah, okay.
I think every web developer
I know you so well, honey. I know when you think something's icky. I'm like, my boy doesn't like this. What's going on?
It's gross.
Wow, I almost automatically went to mark that, like for No Agenda. I'm always marking shit Dvorak says for the opening segment. I almost went to mark that automatically.
Well, that's not a good way to do it. But if you had to, you could. I mean, that's fine. The nice thing would be to use the protocol attribute
and suck it in natively.
That it says Twitter or ActivityPub or whatever, and then go hit the URL with threadcap or whatever tool you're using and just suck it in.
So now you're awaiting comments on this, so we can then go to finalization.
Yes, I'm awaiting comments on the comments.
I have some comments for you on the block tag as proposed.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord?
What are your comments on the block tag? I'm afraid.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, because I'm sure you hate it.
Oh, no, I don't hate it. In fact,
I
am resisting my inner urge to love it, which is very, very hard because my brain.
That's a weird thing to say.
Yes, So in my heart, which concerns me, my heart, and I'll explain. Let me get the feeling out, then I'll explain why. My heart really desires this, and I know it's a sin.
Oh, okay.
So and I mean this. I'm very conflicted about it. So I looked at the slug list, the enum of all the platforms you can signal in your feed to block your podcast from being ingested. And it includes every app, and I'm sure the list will expand.
Oh yeah, it'll be the entire world.
And I want to warn everybody that this is a very, very dangerous tag. This will fucking ruin everything for the reasons of the sin I have in my heart. Because here's how it would be used in a fit of grumpiness. Fuck those guys. I'm blocking Fountain from my feed. That's what's going to happen. So I'm warning for this.
Noted. It's been written.
So
and that
this is so antithetical to the idea of podcasting. It hurts, and it hurts because I know exactly how it will be used because of the sin I have in my soul. I'm right. I'm right.
Oh no, and I 100% agree. 100%. I mean, I think I'm the one who, go rewind this thing, and I think I'm the one that said if this becomes abused, I'm immediately going to stop
that's
even looking
right.
at it.
You did say that, yeah, and so then it'll be ignored. I mean, even we have the do not. What is don't we have a do not import? What is that?
Lock tag.
The locked block, yeah, lock tag. Is that really being followed by anybody?
By some, yeah, by some.
And are a lot of people ignoring it?
Well, the ones you would expect.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Anchor,
Exactly.
Yeah, the ones that it's intended to stop, they do. But I'm not opposed to. I'm not opposed to tags like this that have I mean, no, but
let me just, and I'll just finish it up because, of course, in this case, Fountain could completely ignore my block, which would then result in anger back and forth, and then before you know it, even though I don't have block, they won't put my feed in. And I'm just using this as an example because that's where I feel this would have come up. This is a perfect example of that.
Let me give you a real. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say I'm 57. It's not my first rodeo. I've done stupid shit in my life.
Let me give you the real world example of how this came, because I was going to let this sort of go away, but then because of the comments that I've had before.
And then I just spit on the wound, didn't I?
No. I'm not talking about right now. I'm saying like I was going to let this tag just disappear.
Right.
I was not going to put it
okay.
I was prepared to let it die on the vine, but this specific thing happened, and that is a hosting company contacted me and said, "Hey, there's about 50 or so feeds that you have in the index that they're not private feeds, but there's about 50 of them that we don't want listed publicly." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, just send me the list." And they said, and this person said, "I'm surprised that they showed up because we put in the iTunes block tag in the feed."
Yeah.
And I said, well, my response was, well, according to the iTunes
Spec
namespace,
yeah,
it only applies to Apple. So in the namespace in the iTunes namespace, the official documentation for that tag says that Apple, if that tag exists, Apple will not index the feed.
You're a rule follower.
I'm a rule follower, baby. I mean, 100%, And so, but what happened was, because there's not a general purpose block tag, everybody within the podcast, let's just say infrastructure industry, treats the iTunes block tag as if it means general block everybody.
Right.
And
good on you, man.
So that has the net effect. That has the net result of there is no way to block only specific things. You can't block only Apple and not Google. You can either block everybody or nobody if that's what the iTunes block tag means.
Right.
And it goes even further because James posted on Twitter, because me and him were talking about this privately. And so he posted a survey on Twitter and said, okay, if I put iTunes block in my feed, what does everybody think that means? Block Apple or block everything? And the overwhelming majority of people said that it means only block Apple.
Right.
So there is a fundamental misunderstanding of what the iTunes block tag means in a feed.
And how did you solve that with them?
Oh, I just removed them by hand. I removed it and I put into the aggregator to not index anything that's got the block tag in it. Because the hosting companies, the infrastructure people think that that's what that means, even though everybody else that's not in infrastructure doesn't think that's what that means.
Exactly.
So having a block tag that allows more fine-grained control, it seems kind of necessary, because if I want No Agenda, you want the No Agenda show to be in Apple's directory, but you don't want it in Spotify's directory. With the iTunes block tag, there's no way to do that. There's currently absolutely no way to do it.
Well, but just so we're clear, I'm okay with anybody importing my feed. I'm not okay if you're going to run ads around it. Right. And that's what Spotify does by default. That's why they have you sign their contract.
Yeah.
So they're doing it the right way, even though it's ineffective. They're doing it the right way. I just don't agree with them. So that's fine. But I personally feel there should be no blockage.
Well, I agree 100%. I don't think there should be any blockage at all. The podcast hosting infrastructure world is convinced that the iTunes block tag, it means block means nobody should index that feed, and that's a mess.
Yeah, it leaves Apple with power.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you either block us and everybody else, or you block nobody, and like that's not cool.
Mm-mm.
That gets them off the hook all the time.
Bastards. Let me add a few other things.
I've got a lot of thoughts on the Pod News report card, but I don't want to talk about that this week because it gets my blood pressure up.
I
had next week. Yeah,
I have not looked at it yet. I wanted to mention the new version of cast coverage.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that thing is nuts.
The app on acid.
That app is crazy. I love it.
It's dope. It really is. I mean, you go to castcoverage.com. Oh, oops, sorry. And it remembers all my state. I didn't realize that. Oh, that's cool. Oops. Okay, see, this is what it does. It pops open windows for every function. You can rearrange them. It has little connecting strings between it, so you can control different windows, and it's nuts.
It looks like an old school. Does anybody remember? This is exactly what this looks like. If anybody knows what this is, does anybody remember Fluxbox or Black Box Window Manager for Linux?
Yeah. It looks
this
like
is
it does.
Exactly what it looks like.
Yes, Fluxbox. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
That was my favorite window manager.
It was pretty damn simple.
Yeah. That was my favorite window manager because it had this one. Here's the design philosophy of Fluxbox / Blackbox is the only thing you ever see on the screen is a right click menu.
Yeah.
So, there's nothing else. And you would design. There's like a .conf file that you go in and design your right click menu, and you have like 12 different hierarchies of stuff hanging off of it. It was awesome.
Yeah, I do remember this. Of course, I never used it properly. I was probably more confused by it.
Rolfie, this needs dark mode.
Yes. Needs dark mode.
It does.
Yeah. No, I just thought that was fantastic.
Wait. If you click on the bottom left, the little square at the bottom left.
Yeah.
It changes the window color.
Are you kidding me?
It changed it to pink.
There was a really cool article in The Guardian, which I just wanted to mention. I put it in the show notes. Listening to podcasts on headphones increases perceived intimacy with hosts, research finds.
Oh,
I just wanted to bring this up because, people, my voice was good up until now. People always like, you're really anal about sound. Yes, I am. Because I know that we're in people's heads. And now they have data to back it up. It's very intimate.
You got to use that power responsibly when you get into somebody's head. Don't just be pulling wires.
There is so much power in audio. Because remember, everything is vibration. Everything is vibration. And so when it's vibrating, when my voice vibrates through the microphone and vibrates out through your speakers, your earbuds, and it vibrates into your body, you become an antenna for the vibration. And so when I shake the rain stick, we get tornadoes in Austin.
Butterflies in
telling you.
South America.
I'm telling you. Shit's real. One other just general thing. Yeah. I get a lot of people saying, are there any of these apps on the Fdroid store? And I think, is Mitch still updating Podverse on Fdroid? I mean, I know it's a pain in the ass. I have a feeling it may not be. But a lot of people are really looking for any of our apps on Fdroid.
That's a good question. I don't know if he is or not. I don't know, because he had really talked about at one point dropping it, because I think he said it was a real pain.
I can understand. What he
ended up doing.
Well, there's just some low-hanging fruit there, is I guess what I'm pointing out.
What is the deal with Fdroid? Is it in order to get in it, you can't have any dependency on a Google library?
I don't know. I don't think so, but I have no idea. They always put in there, some not so friendly features you may not like, like uses third-party networks, blah, blah, blah. So at least it tells you about all the stuff. I don't know if they forbid anything specifically. I think open source, is that it? Yeah, Cold Acid said it has to be open source.
Oh, Alex just posted a link, so I guess Podverse is in there.
Oh, it is? Oh, good.
Yeah, looks like it.
Good, okay. Because I just want to send people there when they ask. Oh, and that's one other thing about the users and developers partying together. This is not to exclude the listeners. You have a duty too. If you learn about newpodcastapps.com from a podcaster, tell the other podcaster you're listening to. It makes a difference. That's how it works. That's how historically podcasting grows, is through the content. The content interacting in real time with the development of the platform, the software, the standard.
Right.
You have a duty to boost.
It's your patriotic duty.
Hell yeah. If you're a global citizen.
So I think that when it comes to that notion, going back to the value for value thing for a second, and is the sort of listener responsibility or whatever you want to call it. I was listening to Buzzcast yesterday, and they were saying they had a podcaster on there, this lady that does a podcast on their network, and she was talking about how she had had a lot of success on Patreon, and she said that they took like roughly 8%.
Really?
Uh-huh. And she said, but there were higher levels that would give you other options, like you could go as high like 12% or something, and they would do other things. But she said they've had a lot of success, and when they were talking about why, she mentioned that she thinks it's got to do with their call to action, where they, say they tell their audience about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, yeah, of course,
yeah.
I mean, like,
it's not like magic.
Well, but see, this is important though, because I don't think that like this is the big issue with value for value and how boosts and that kind of thing have been seen in other podcasts. Some podcasts are doing this very, very well.
Yep.
And other podcasts are not doing it at all. They just sort of put a value block in their feed, and then it's like, okay, I'm done. But no, I mean, like, if you want, you can't just hook up Patreon and say, okay, I'm done. I mean, you got to tell people, like, that's the thing. The value for value is critical. It is just like anything else. You have to tell people that it's there.
You have to tell people that it's there. You have to tell people why. It's no different from, I don't know if you have, do you have the ads that are running now? Maybe they're local to our network, where there's a kind of a, older millennial-ish woman, and she's in Ukraine, and it's for the war-torn Jews, and she's with this old woman who looks just perfect for the part, and it's a really long ad, and it's all to raise money for a nonprofit, and that's a heart-wrenching ad. How many times have you heard 1-800-77 Cars for Kids? If Ronald McDonald House never had communication with their with their patrons or former patient or family members, I should say.
The Humane Society.
No one would ever give anything, because if you don't ask, they don't give. That's the part that people have to get over. That's the hardest part. Dvorak and I are writing the book about it. It's really, really weird to do that. But when you do it, that's when you see it come alive.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's if you just want the fun of, if you're not wanting to get money or anything like that from your podcast, I mean, hey, you just want the fun of the technology, that's fine, But if you actually want to, if your goal is to monetize in some way, well, then you have to tell people how they can do it. Like they say, otherwise they just don't know, But hey, but that actually isn't true. I'm thinking, now that I'm thinking about this is actually an interesting part of value for value as it's implemented in apps. in the Podcasting 2.0 apps. Oh, I'm just kind of hitting me.
I'm ready.
I'm having a light bulb moment here.
All right. You're lit.
I'm lit. I'll get the live tag. The other ways of monetizing, like Patreon and stuff, involve you having to tell your audience that it's there because otherwise they would not know. But the Podcasting 2.0 apps surface the boost button on the page when it sees a podcast that is value enabled.
Yes, sir.
That's how I know. Like, for instance,
that's the square you put your finger on. That's the square you need to put your finger on. There's no other square.
Yeah. This actually solves the discoverability issue with monetization.
Mm-hmm.
But why did I not see this before? So, like, when I'm in Cast-O-Matic, which is what I usually use on a daily driver, is when there's a value for value podcast, it pops up, like, I see the boost button. If it's no boost button, there's
it's not there. Yeah.
It's not, they don't have a value block.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's
genius.
That's genius.
It is.
And I just figured it out. I'm not a genius.
Yeah, no hunting around for PayPal buttons or anything like that. No. And it's consistent across all apps.
I'm resisting the urge to dive into the Pod News report card because it goes into a lot of this stuff. I want to talk about that next week. But that is, there was criticism in there of us focusing too much on crypto stuff. This is important, and I'm not getting into it. I'm not doing it.
My goodness, Dave, it's too bad you can only meet with me on your lunch hour. If we had more time, we could have so much more fun together.
That's the anyway, that just hit me, and I can't believe I didn't realize that before.
It's a genius system. It's genius.
Well, yeah, and Alex is right too. You can do it for blogs and stuff if you put that in there because it just shows up.
Yep.
It's not a matter of having to like tell people like it's a UI. It's a UI.
Yeah, this is what I was talking to Stephen B about. I said, can you spruce up your widget? You know, this goes back because he heard what we were talking about 40% of women listen to the podcast on the website. Said, can you just make your little player widget? Can you just have a boost in there and a wallet support and, expand window or whatever? I don't know. I mean, it makes so much sense.
He cleaned up something because it looks different. I don't know if you've seen it, like the donation set thing where it says pricing, I think. If you click on the pricing
I use
link,
it every day. What did I miss?
Well, if you click on the pricing link at the top.
Oh, pricing. I never click on pricing.
It says CurioCasters, but it's got a little donation widget right there. QR code.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sweetness.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a donation.
And he explains what he does.
Yeah.
3% and all that. 3% of the amount is sent to
My God, that's an outrageous fee. That's oppressive.
Well, you're hitting all cylinders today.
No, we'll wait on that. Hey, by the way, aren't you going on vacation next week, brother?
Me?
Yeah, I thought you were going on vacation.
No.
When because you weren't going to Bitcoin 2022. I thought just because you're on vacation, or was that something else?
No, it's because it's tax season.
Oh, screw that, because we have a problem, Houston.
Oh no, are you going to be out of town next week?
2 weeks. 2 Fridays.
Oh no.
Yes, 2 Fridays.
Bummer.
Now, we can do Thursday evening, which I'm fine with. I'll survive, which I would kind of prefer.
Okay.
So that would be this coming Thursday. And then we could do, if you want, Saturday when I come back. I'll come back Friday, but I'll be back too late for the show, and I'll be, I won't have time to prepare. I don't want to miss the board meeting. It's incredibly important to me.
Yeah, sure. We can do Thursday.
We got to go spread my dad's ashes around. No, wait, this is our vacation. That's a different trip. There'll be no interruption of that trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're okay. So we would do this coming Thursday night.
Unless you want to just take 1 week off.
I mean, we can take 1 week off.
But I mean, it's more for you. I'm fine doing it, but
as long as I can. Yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about it after the show. We'll figure something out.
All right. Okay. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to spring it on you, but
No, that's okay. No, if
I'm fried. I need a week off. I'm so fried.
Do we want to talk about the work on the aggregator?
Yeah, I'd love to hear about the aggregator. It's exciting.
It is.
How sincere was that?
Yeah, that was not sincere at all. I'm about to rock your world. Then, if you're excited about that.
This is aggravate. That's what we're talking about here.
Aggravator. It's the This is not that. This is not that necessarily. It's tied to it, but so here, so that the polar, the new polar, the aggravator polar is done mostly. I mean, I'm still tweaking it tiny bits, but it does what I need it to. It's very simple. It's only about 350 lines of Rust, and it's very, very simple and fast. All it really does is polls the feeds. You give it a list of feeds. It pulls them down, and then saves it in a feed file with the status code, last update time, tag, all that. So it's very simple. Then it gives it back. Then it hands it over to the parser. In the process, if it sees a redirect file, if it sees a redirect from the HTTP, it kicks that out as a separate file in a different folder. Oh. So if it sees if it sees a permanent redirect, if it sees a 301 or a 308, it writes that as a file separately.
What does 308 mean?
308 means it's a permanent redirect. That means
God, don't worry about it. I'll look it up.
Yeah, look it up. So these redirects get handled. So you follow the redirect. Obviously, you're being redirected. So you get the content. But if it's a permanent redirect, you really want to update the feed URL.
Yeah, 308 is permanent. 301 is just a redirect.
Now, 301's a permanent too, but they're permanent for two different reasons. Oh. The reasons are kind of subtle, I think, if I remember correctly. 308s are not nearly as common as 301s. It's probably a 100-to-1 ratio, if not more. So we write the redirect file out so that a script later can come through, read those redirect files, and update the database accordingly. That redirect file is taking 10 times longer to write than the actual polar did.
Okay.
Because it is fraught with decision making.
Rules from the rule follower.
Yeah, and so like back, if you're writing in the past, I've always just written regular old RSS blog aggregators, and that it's easy. It's easy to handle redirects in there. HTTP is the law. That's the only thing that matters. So if you get a 301 through an HTTP redirect, you just update the database and keep on chugging. But in podcasting, it's a complete mess, because what you have is you have directories that have identifiers that they map an identifier out to a feed URL, and they expect that.
I see the problem. Yeah, I see where it breaks.
Yeah, you have to keep things in sync.
Right.
So what iTunes number 2163489 on my URL for that iTunes ID needs to match what Marco's ID URL is for that ID.
Right.
And what Apple's is. So, and that's just one decision. So then here's a typical scenario. A redirect, it hits a redirect, picks it up, and the script has to do something along these lines. Look at the current URL, see if it's valid. Check by valid, I mean like see that it's got XML content and parses into a proper feed. Look at the new URL, make sure it does, so that there's not some phantom death there that's going on. Make sure both of them validate. Then go through and say, okay, does this feed have an iTunes ID? Okay, if it does, ping Apple's API and see what they say that the URL is. Save that, hang on to that value. Then look into our database and see if the URL that's being redirected to already exists as another feed ID. Like we've got the old one, and we've also picked up the new one that's being redirected to as a new feed. If that's the case, see if that one has an iTunes ID. If it does, ping Apple's. If it's different, ping Apple's API and see what that URL says. Now you've got potentially 4 different URLs that you're going to have to make sense out of. If the conflicting feed does not have an iTunes ID, you kill it, mark it as a duplicate of the other one with a number pointing back to the original one, and then repoll that feed, set the new URL, and you're done. If the other one does have an iTunes ID and it matches this one, you can do the same thing. If it's got a different iTunes ID, just bail and kick it out and make Dave fix it. There's this whole big mess of, and I was trying to figure this out and say, well,
at the end of this, after all those things have happened, all those decisions are made between 4 different feeds, I can't even imagine what the possibility of things has to be looked at. Does a candy bar pop out of the slot at the bottom? See, just munch on that like, yes, it worked.
Your reward is ice cream. But so like I was explaining this on the Mastodon, and I said, well, okay, so this is a very typical thing that would happen. This scenario, the redirect says, okay, you hit an anchor feed, and it says, okay, I'm redirecting you over to Podbean. Well, now, but I do have an iTunes ID. Ping Apple, and Apple still shows the old anchor and not Podbean. So what do? Do you set it as Podbean? Because clearly the feed wants you over at Podbean, but Apple says no, it's not, it's anchor. And so, Marco Pipe, he pitched in and said, just keep it at anchor, because he said, I've seen too many times that podcasters will set a redirect and then say, oh crap, I wish I didn't do that.
But how does how does that fit with the source of truth as the feed?
Well, because that's where it gets tricky, because the source of truth is the feed, but that's not what is telling you that that's not what's giving you this information.
It's lying. It's lying.
What's giving you the information is the server that's serving the feed, which may not represent accurately the intent of the podcaster.
Oh, okay.
Because think about iTunes. If you go, and let me just say this. I mean, in general, this is why we need to stop having Apple as the source of truth, is because of
this very
all
issue.
Of this crap.
All of this, yeah.
We need to go back to a scenario where HTTP is the rule, is the law, and when it tells you to do something, you do it. Which is how the entire internet works, except for podcasting. But if you say, like, if a person goes and they leave Anchor and go to Podbean or whatever, and then they figure out, oh, I still got some apps over here that are hitting Anchor. Well, I'm not going to update my iTunes Connect or whatever it is, dashboard. I'm not going to change that because I don't want to lose my followers in the old Apple Podcasts app versus the new one. So I'm just it's just such a mess. And so he's right. I mean, and at the end of it all, if he has an iTunes ID in Overcast and we have an iTunes ID in the index and we're both syncing together, those URLs need to be the same.
So how do we cut Apple out of this longer term?
I got no clue. I mean, we just keep on chugging, I guess, and keep on trying to make the index as good as possible so that.
What can we ask Apple to do to make this go away? No, seriously.
I'm serious and laughing about it because I don't think they care.
But I'm asking what the ask would be.
I don't even know. I mean, I don't think it's a model they can change. I mean, they're committed to it at this point. It's just a thing. Like that's the way their entire system works. And they've recently changed it, to put their IDs even more central to their system because they're centralized their aggregators and it's not at the app level anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they can change.
Right, but if they all of a sudden turned off their API, or said you got to pay for it or whatever, we understand the overall implications, but part of that's why we're here. How would that work with all of these redirects and all that shit? I.e., would 50% of the universe be still happy and then the other 50 would not?
It comes, you've got this layer on top. You've got this layer on top of HTTP. And that's the problematic point is you say, okay, my server is telling you to do one thing. And now, but I'm going to go over to this other special dashboard and over there, I'm going to tell it for you to do something different. And then I don't know at that point, the results are undefined.
Okay. But it's certain servers that are redirecting incorrectly.
Well, they've let, here's what, let me give you an example. Here's what Spreaker does. If you evidently stop paying your bill or I don't know, delete your account or something, I don't know, you will get a redirect from Spreaker that redirects you to a Google search for the title of your podcast that used to be at that URL.
Let me Google that for you. Nice.
It's exactly what it is. Yes. Which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
That's actually a good idea, but I mean, nobody's ever going to see it because it's an aggregator.
Right.
But that's the way, that's the way Spreaker handles it. Anchor appears to just change the feed and say, there's no longer a feed here. That's what the text is of the thing. I don't know. Everybody handles it differently, and I don't have a good solution for it. I mean, if there was a good solution for it, it would have been thought of by now. But long term,
but it seems like most of the hosts do the redirects properly. I mean, I'm just saying, do we need to do a blitz on podcast hosts so that we can solve some of this once and for all? If all the podcast hosts, I guess you couldn't just.
This is not a hosting.
No,
this is not a hosting problem.
I see what you're saying.
This is a podcaster problem because the podcasters don't understand. Most podcasters, when they move, all they think about is changing it in iTunes, or whether or not they should.
Well,
they never
you buried the lead. You gave me all the lead. You buried. Okay. You gave me and I appreciate it. I love understanding how this stuff works. But if you just said, podcasters, don't be idiots, you've got to redirect everywhere, that's something I can work with.
Yeah, but that's no fun for me. I got to explain this. What else is my job here? I'm taking my role away.
Dave Jones, are you kidding me? If Dvorak dies before I do, you're it, man. We'll have Tina come in from time to time. Mo on deck.
Do I have to drink wine? Is that the rule there?
No, only with Tina. Yeah.
Wine with Tina and the keeper.
You're a great podcaster, Dave Jones. You really are. You have no idea how good you are.
Well, Alex is saying in the chat room that pod ping is a good solution to this. I think he's right. But if you combine pod ping with the GUID tag,
then we're in business. Yeah.
That's the ultimate. And the GUID tag has been lost in the discussions lately, but that's what it's meant to ultimately resolve, is these kinds of issues that the GUID tag exists to eventually make it where the ecosystem can figure these conflicts out themselves rather than having to go back and poll an API for it.
Ice Cube Soup in the chat says we need podcastfeedhealth.com for podcasters to find out if they've screwed up. Let me tell you, man.
I agree. That's a great idea.
I mean, you have to know that it's so hard to live on the edge like this. I don't use a hosting company, so I'm responsible for a lot of moving parts in my feed. And like Wednesday, I published, and instead of 2022 in the URL, it was 2222. And so, then the enclosure is invalid, and then invariably, even though I change my feed, it gets cached, and it's a huge pain.
Yeah.
So when we have these new experimental things, I mean, podcast feed health .wtf. That would be that would be great for promoting new features. Like, your feed is great, but it could be even better with chapters, a value block.
Well, the podcast index page could do that itself. It could say,
ooh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Like you click the button on the feed page, and it goes and gives you like this plain English explanation of what's wrong. It says, hey, everybody, Apple says that this feed is at Anchor, but we looked and it's pointing to Podbean.
Right.
Maybe you want to go fix this.
Yeah. How about that?
That'd be cool. Somebody write it.
Is it done yet?
Quick, go write it.
All of this work, all of this genius coming from my partner here is worth a few sats, I'd say. It's the only way we can fund this entire project, and here we are, paying taxes on money we don't have.
No, that's the funnest part. That's the greatest part of this project.
Yes, and it's all in the Lightning node. It's all in the node and in the servers, baby. It's where it all is. Value for value. We've talked a lot about it. Now is your chance to experience it for yourself. We prefer you to get a modern podcast app at newpodcastapps.com and boost us big amounts, but really it's the value that you determine. That's the great part about it, is whatever you think it's worth, and that's very subjective. You can also do it still through Fiat Fund coupons. There's one coming in. By going to podcastindex.org down at the bottom, you can click on the PayPal button, go to donate that way. Also, there's an on-chain. I should take a look and see if we got any on-chain donations through Tallycoin. Hold on a second.
Oh, I forget about on-chain stuff.
Yeah, I forgot one for Curry and the Keeper, and Dame Jennifer has sent us like 23,000 sats. My voice is going, man.
Oh, you're fading. I need to jump in here and save you.
Yeah, you might have to. Hold on a second. Let me just see if we have anything over here. Podcasting 2.0. Here we go. We got on the 19th of March, T-shirt time. I think we already got that. We have that on the list.
Was that through Tallycoin? I thought it was a Lightning donation.
It might be Lightning, which also works through Tallycoin.
Okay.
305095.
Yeah, that must be that was the T-shirt donation.
Yeah. Okay, so you have that one. All right, good. We're good. Should we thank some people, Dave?
I would love to thank some people.
Yes. I'm in the mood.
That might be my favorite jingle.
It's one of mine.
Marco, $500.
Big baller
through PayPal.
Big baller.
No. He is a
boost.
Concentric baller. I don't know how to say this. There's we can do these together because Buzzsprout also came in with $500. Double.
Oh, I got to hit it. I just got to hit it.
Shot caller, 20-inch blades on the Impala.
It just makes me feel good.
they're both in the Impala bouncing
That's
through
right.
motion.
That's right. Shot caller. Thank you both very much. Or actually, thank all of you. Buzzsprout, not just one. Yeah,
Yes.
You got to talk, Dave. My voice, I would get something to drink.
Yeah, no, but we appreciate that so much because that is the foundation. These two donations each month have become the foundation of what we're doing, and then because they're subscriptions and they hit every month.
Yes.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off because we don't have to worry about whether it's going to happen or not. No, it's fantastic, and we're very much appreciative.
Which is, of course, part of living on the edge with Podcasting 2.0 with value for value. Part of it is living on the edge. Will we make rent?
Because that's the thing. Is like
that's all I ever care about.
Could get canceled. Yeah, these could get canceled at any moment. We don't know. I mean, you don't know. So that's one of the reasons why we're trying to build up enough money in the bank to be able to run this for a while if something really bad happened. And this makes it where those two donations make it, and RSS.com comes in with donations a lot that are big. Those donations make it to where we don't have to eat up every single bit of what we're doing with to cover the overhead, the fees, the hosting fees, and Lightning Node and all that stuff. It allows us to have the extra to put in the bank for the future, and me and Adam and I don't take any distributions, so everything just stays in the business. That's why we talk about like we're an LLC. I don't know how it works in other countries, but in LLC in the United States, it's a pass through. So that means when the company gets money, that goes on your personal tax return, even if it's still in the bank and you never saw it. So we never see a dime, but we still pay taxes on it. Anyway, we really appreciate it.
It's the Podcasting 2.0 vow of poverty, Dave. Embrace it.
I did get to claim about $3,000 of expenses on my taxes, though. That was the Bitcoin conference.
No. Yeah, no, you definitely get to deduct cool stuff.
Yeah, so that saved me a lot of money on taxes, but I still was in the hole like $700. Yeah. Effers. Okay.
Effers.
Rolfie gave us $11.11.
Rolfie from Cast Coverage. Yeah. Thank you, man. Beautiful.
He says, "We are the all-powerful diesel-fueled freight train of freedom coming through. Keep it lit, brothers. Lots of love, Rolfie."
This podcast is lit. liveItem tag.
I love it. That's a good acronym. I'm digging that. All right, we got some boosts.
Yeah, boost.
Now, this was extremely confusing because we had all those comments mixed in here, and you did a lot of cleanup, and I'm hoping I did it right because we had to merge two different sets of boosts in here together.
Yeah, so what I did was anything that I could see appeared as a comment and that was not specifically posted as a comment as a boostergram, which I think was none of them. We just were leaving out. Most of them were 101 sats for some reason, or 100 sats.
That seemed to be a consistent value. Yeah.
Yeah. So and it didn't matter if who was saying what, for, against, positive, negative. We just left all of those out.
Yeah.
Because this is boostergrams.
Yep. Yeah, it was not an easy process to go through, but I think
Stephen B says, I thought you guys were doing this to make Curry rich.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that next time. That's my pet peeve of this. It's just nuts. Okay, back to boostergrams. Macintosh gave us 100 sats, and he says, "Thanks for all you're doing. You two rock." Thank you, Macintosh.
Thank you very much. We feel like we rock today.
Yeah. I'm feeling rockage. Yeah.
Boost.
Brian of London, 1,948 sats. He's liking that one. By far the hardest part of my relearning to code has been my experience setting up dev environments, but once you get it, it works great.
Yeah, thank you. And
thank you, Brian.
So I did not dive into the dev environment yet, Daniel J. I'm going to. We just got really busy with stuff. But I don't want to stop the review of the new site. So I'll figure this out.
Let's see. Cotton Gin, 3333 sats through CurioCaster, and he says, "We did it! Pew pew! Y'all are awesome. I love you. Thanks." Thanks, Cotton Gin. Appreciate that, brother. And Stephen B says March 20th, March 2022. Oh, so we're a little bit late on this. He says, "Hey Adam, can you wish my son Jack a happy 12th birthday?"
Oh, we did that one. We did
last
that
week.
No, these were all live. I also left all the ones we did live because we read them on the show.
No, so you already did the birthday?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I have no recollection of that.
Yeah. No, this is a problem with me. I remember some things so specifically. I can remember something from 8 years ago, like read details, and I always remember the notes.
I don't. I mean, it's like I wasn't even there. I have no.
That's okay. It's okay. I remember I read it, so that's another reason why.
Oh, okay. Well, did you read this one from Chad Farrow? It says, "Yay, Gigi."
Yes.
You did? Okay. Well, maybe let's see. What about this one? Pew pew, mofos. The future is here.
I don't remember that, so I like it.
That was 50,000 sats from Pitar.
Yes, we did do that one.
Oh, this sucks.
When I was doing the list, I took all those out and you merged them back in.
I did. I thought. See, that's.
So you can go to. Hold on a second, because I also.
What if I just avoid the 18th altogether?
No. See, but I did them. I did them in reverse order.
Okay, I know that this one was on your list. This is good. Cotton Gin. 22-222, humongous row of ducks. Go podcasting! !
Yes. Now here's the interesting thing. Yes. First of all, let me get you some ducks there, brother. I have Cotton Gin 22222 CurioCaster, and all I got is Go Podcasting. I think that's because of the export. I don't have the fixed export.
Yeah, I got to push that up. Yeah.
Now, did you get Dreb Scott 35,690?
Shit, I don't know anything anymore.
Boost, Go Podcasting.
Go Podcasting!
Oh, yes, I got that one. Yes, I did get that one.
And then I also have...
Wait, now you're doing my bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're messing me up here.
All right, I'm sorry. Okay.
I got to... This is the...
Got away from me. Got away from me. Got away from me. It is a disaster. Curse you. Comments.
Chad Farrow says, "I've never rolled the dice in the bathroom, but I have in the living room alone with the curtains closed." You never know who could be watching.
Chad, man, that's the best one ever.
That's
badass boostagram.
Roy. Oh, Roy is borderline baller boost. 54th.
I love Roy. You know, this is how this went. You and I were talking to Roy a couple weeks ago. And at the end, whenever Dave and I are on with somebody, I always say, it's so disappointing the Bitcoin industry doesn't do shit for us. They never donate. Remember that?
I do. I was there, and I remember that. Unlike these boosts that I don't remember. I do remember that comment for some reason.
And then Roy immediately, he gets it. He's like, yeah, shit, I should be boosting. This is bullshit. Thank you very much. And he has GG is king, a little crown emoji.
Yes, he does. 54,321 sats.
54321. Beautiful number. That's your number from now. That is now the breeze boost.
Oh, you're locking him in.
54321. It's beautiful. He's the only one I've seen do that so far.
The aforementioned Dreb Scott boost of 35,690 sats through the Fountain app says, "Boost! Go podcasting!
Go podcasting! Boost!"
Thank you, Dreb. And Aristatica follows that up with 2376 through Fountain, and he says, "I love boosting for Bitcoin."
Don't just stand there. Boost!
Thank you, Aristatica
and
Dreb Scott. Now these printed out double on my page, so this is why I was so concerned about you getting out of my sequence, because
I'm so sorry.
I'll be able to get back on. No, you're fine. Oscar Mary sent us 1,000 sats, and he just says boost.
Yeah, yo,
boost.
Macintosh. Oh, we already read him. I'm so screwed up. Do you see what this is why I should not be giving Adam advice on how to build a podcast or show prep software
or how to do a spreadsheet.
Or how to do a spreadsheet. Yes. Okay. SCOTT Scott sent us 20,420 sats, and he says, "Hello guys, testing the boost through Breeze. Puff puff pass. Not sure what name comes through."
What came through?
SCOTT.
Yeah, that works perfectly.
Dale.
Hold on a second. He did the puff puff pass. It's puff puff pass.
No, I forgot we had a jingle for that.
It's not a jingle. This is an external microphone inserted directly into my bong.
Okay. At the bottom, is it you got a bung hole at the bottom to put the mic in?
Yeah.
It's into your bong hole.
Okay, Dave Jones. Okay. Stop before we kill again.
Dale 2222 says, "I love supporting podcasts with Satoshis. I listen to a few other independent podcasts, but that I currently support via Patreon. I was wondering if you have any advice on resources to share with them so they can get started on accepting Lightning payments too. Assume zero knowledge of the cryptocurrency world."
Valueforvalue.io.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Simple as that. Thank you, Dale. Appreciate it, man. Let's see. Oscar Mary came back again with 1,000 sats. He says, "Adam, you were right. We should have been showing comments from the social interact tag here. I think we might have taken the running with scissors ethos a bit too far, although for what it is worth, there was a beta version of this available for 2 weeks, and we only received good feedback." Yep. So that's, I think that was a comment, but I read it out anyway because it was a good explanation.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't know there was a beta, and that doesn't matter. I can't test everything.
Well, and that's also a good point about open source projects is just because it's open source doesn't mean people are looking at it thoroughly. And that is always going to be an Achilles heel of open source is that sometimes people don't put eyeballs on it when they should.
And if I may,
mm-hmm.
Just so this kind of goes back to my point. If you have a feature and you want to test that feature, maybe send me an email and say, "Hey, I want to test this feature. And by the way, if you like it, could you talk about it?" So leaving me out, yes, it might have caused me to raise questions about it, but it also, don't hesitate, I would say.
Well, he did post it on the Mastodon. I mean, it was there.
No, I understand, but this goes right back to it. Okay, let's say this is a great feature. It's perfect. You want people to use it. Why wouldn't you reach out to a couple of podcasters with a large audience and ask them to use it?
Oh, I see.
Just posting on the Mastodon is not a guarantee. It's like, where's your ask? It's the same thing.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay, I'm not Joe Rogan. I have 1/10 of his audience, maybe a little more. Would you consider asking Joe Rogan to try it out? That's my point.
Cass Peelan, 101 sats, and he says, "Nice show, thanks."
Thank you, Cass.
Harvhat, 11,011 sats through CurioCaster. And he says, "I'm spewing sats."
Sats.
Rolling the dice, spewing sats. Yeah, we hear you.
Brian Mozzie, 101 sats, and he says, "Don't just stand there, boost for the BTC conversation with GG."
Don't just stand there, boost!
John's BRT says 101 sats, and he says, "Balance comment." Oh, that was a comment.
Well, the balance
comment?
Yeah. How big was it?
101 sats.
Oh, because, even though we talked about it, Alex Gates did indeed
Oh, yes, right.
Balance
boost. Yeah.
His app was Bash Boost? Oh, is that the Bash Boost?
Yeah, that's the.
Is that the CLI?
One of the command line tools. Yeah,
giving myself some
There's
inbound liquidity, and so he sent 250,000 sats.
Alex?
Yes.
Yeah. That was during the show.
Yeah,
last week.
just to balance it out. Yeah. I just wanted to bring it up again. I thought it was badass.
Alex said he hand wrote it. He wrote that whole, I guess he wrote the TLV and everything by hand.
Oh, really? Just on one line?
Right.
No.
Dang, dude.
Holy,
no, you can do it. You can do it with LNC.
That's a baller. That's a baller shit. Bash baller. Bash baller is what that is. You kidding me?
Look in the helipad GitHub repo, and there's an example of how to send a one-liner on the command line with the whole thing in it. Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Cool. That's one of those things you want to do. Bang, whatever. Just up arrow all the time. That's funny.
History grep LNC a lot.
Yeah, yes, history grep is my favorite.
Don't just see. Wait, no, I already read that. Oh, it got me on the wrong page. Let's see. Dreb Scott, 10,035 sats, and he says, 1 more than Darren and 2 more than CSB. Boost.
Yeah,
I like this.
Yeah, I agree. We read that one too.
We did last week. Wait, but the date on that is
18th,
March the 19th at 4:03 p.m. Curious.
That's interesting. I remember the 1 more than Darren. Maybe someone else did that as well.
Oh, I think that was somebody else. Yeah,
that's possible.
Yeah, because that was CSB. CSB did 1 more than Darren, and then now Dreb is doing 1 more than CSB, so it's 2 more than
Couple of things here. We have new T-shirts, which now the Podcasting 2.0 certified T-shirt is only available for donors. And what is it? $125? We put a new limit on this for the shipping and handling.
Yeah, because the shipping's
very expensive. Very expensive,
and it's a better quality T-shirt. And everything's just costing us more.
Podcastindex.shop. And there's also some other fine products they're putting together. That's the No Agenda Shop team. And we have no contracts or anything. We just order the T-shirts from them, and anything else they do that they make money on, they'll send a donation in. Like, are you even in the index, bro? Which it still makes me laugh. That one.
Yeah,
it's very funny. Yeah. And was there something else I was saying? That was the main thing I want to say about that.
Let's see, 101 sats. Greetings from the road from Nomad Joe.
Hey, Nomad Joe. Greetings. Careful, man. Don't boost while driving.
Yep. Sir Bill says, I can confirm I'm not Dreb Scott. Boost.
Yes.
Boost.
Identity confirmed.
That rumor has been squashed. N4VX says, boosting episode 78 from Podfriend. Boost. 500 sats.
Thank you.
Thank you, N4VX. Mere Mortals podcast, 101 sats, and he says, I'm more of an open air dicer, if you know what I mean. I feel like the shape and form of the dice are a natural thing and shouldn't be hidden away. I'm actually thinking of joining a nudist dice colony, freeing myself from the shackles of societal stigma.
Boost.
Oh,
open air dicer.
Okay.
Kyron, you're nuts, dude.
Love that.
I love their show, by the way. 101 sats through Fountain from, also from Kyron. And did you see this? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Wunderschön. No, that doesn't what it says. It's Wunderschön. I got for some reason it came in,
the Unicode.
Yeah, the U and code didn't work, so I'm seeing a backslash and then 2 O's with a U, so that's an umlaut. So I'm going to say wunderschön, which means beautiful.
Okay, so it's wunderschön?
Wunderschön. Schön.
Wunderschön. Wunderschön, der Gigi. Okay.
Nice. I also didn't get the Gigi part. I only got wunderschön.
I guess I may have just insulted Gigi to no end without intention. So if I did, I'm sorry.
I think he's fine.
And the delimiter, CSB, Comic Strip Blogger, 10,033 sats through Cast-O-Matic, and he says, howdy, Podcasting 2.0 team. That's sort of Texan. Howdy, Podcasting 2.0 team. And your listeners are invited to a bi-weekly podcast named AI.Cooking, spoken by Gregory William Forsyth Foreman from Kent. New episode 27 dropping this weekend. Yo!
Boost.
Then we have a couple of fresh boosts from the live, from the lit, from our lit podcast. We just got a couple of 333 boosts in a row. Then we have 3333 from Cotton Gin, who says, "Go podcasting."
Go podcasting!
500 sats from Sir Sean of Allegheny Valley. No note there. Sir Spencer, 1,009 sats. And Sir Spencer says, 3% is not an outrageous fee. If it's not a lightning routing fee, LOL. Come on, you silly dog. Yeah, I love that we can disagree and we still have humor. Cold Acid, it's our duty to boost, he says, 333. Then we have a boob from Boobery, 8008. Thanks again, Dave, for swapping our feed for BTS to the new one. Armed with a live tag in one hand and a pair of scissors in the other. This is a new live son of a bitch.
I like it.
What is BTS?
Oh, I like that. What is what?
What is BTS? It was the name of the show. BTS, was it stand for?
Behind the Schemes.
Oh, Behind the Schemes. Of course, I knew that. 3333 from Sir Spencer. Abel Kirby and I will be evangelizing Podcasting 2.0 and other digital content over value for value at the Kansas City Bitcoin Block Party in Westport on April 24th. There will be music, food, live music, food and drink, and vendors all selling their wares exclusively in Bitcoin. Well, there you go. Thank you very much. Right. Excellent. It's kind of interesting. If this was posted as a comment, it would be seen as advertising.
It is advertising.
I know, but it's not. It's a boostagram. It's part of the deal.
You get to skirt and you get to shade. You get to hide in the shade.
Yeah, no, we can be pretty open about it. I got no problem with that. 3369 from Medus, doing my duty, boosting for humanity. And let's see, we had another from Cotton Gin, 3333. We're lit, fire emoji. And we did have a couple more. I see here. Oh, I got a couple more. 200 from Sir Sean of the Allegheny Valley, boosting again, and his 1,000 sats for his first boost. I think he just figured it out.
Okay, cool.
And then we have Cold Acid 33333, so 33,333 sats. We are still looking for translators and beta testers for Podcast Generator 3.2. Visit transifex.com/podcast-generator/podcast-generator. That's got to be wrong. Also, github.com/podcast-generator. That must be something with how he did that. It's a command line boost. So I think he doubled that. Anyway, see, this is where it would be handy to surface this. A little button. Click. I'm clicking on the button that surfaces this boostagram.
Well, it'll be you put it in the show notes. That link in the show notes.
Yeah, I will. But I'm just realizing that's something that I always want. Okay. When we're doing No Agenda and someone says, "Hey, can you put this link in?" So I have to remember that. I have to go back, copy it from the spreadsheet, put it into the show notes. Whereas if I could just click on a boost, and it then became part of the show notes.
Yeah.
Or just public. I mean, even if it's just public.
Right. He said, cold acid. That's how about this cold acid? Harabarik. That's it's Chris Harabarik. He says that is right. The URL www.transifex.com/podcast-generator/podcast-generator.
Oh,
that's it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, he said I nailed it. Hot damn.
All right. I was already editing it. Okay, you got it. I'll put it in the show notes.
We got some monthlies.
Yes, thank you all very much, everybody, for boosting for humanity.
Boost for humanity. I can't get that. I can't not hear that. Keith Gibson, $50. Thank you, Keith. Pod News, $50. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James.
Thank you very much, James. Appreciate that. Paul Erskine, $11.14. Dwayne Goldie, $8. Michael Goggin, $5. Charles Current, $5. Cone Glossbach, $5. Christopher Reamer, $10. James Sullivan, $10. Sean McCune, $20. Thank you, Sean. Jordan Dunville, $10. And Stu Coates, $6.66. Thank you, everybody.
Yes. Listen to you, man, like a little DJ there. Thank you, everybody.
Hang around for my show.
You do have a good DJ name, Dave Jones. Hot rockin' Z100 Dave Jones in the morning with you, everybody. How you doing? Hey, my dad is a Beatle.
Hey, hang around for 2:30. We're going to start the mix.
See, he can do it, ladies and gentlemen. I knew it. Did you do college radio?
No, I didn't do college.
Here we are, two value for value college dropouts. Hello, Steve Jobs and Woz.
That's right. I had 4 different majors and then called it quits.
I had three months, was running the station and called it quits. All right, brother. So we'll figure it out. Maybe we do it Thursday night for the next board meeting, just so we get one in before I go on the vacays.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, perfect. All right, man. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much, Dave. I really appreciate just chatting this shit through with you, and I hope everyone else did.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, man. Well, yeah, we'll hit one Thursday night. I always love it.
Okay. All right, everybody. That's it for our board meeting Podcasting 2.0. We will return next week, maybe a little bit early. Please join us for the board meeting of Podcasting 2.0.
You have been listening to Podcasting 2.0. Visit podcastindex.org for more information.
Go podcasting!